Well, freaky fruitcake. I kind of followed up on the videos I'd been posting the last 2 days. And the retention rate was high. It was pretty much 100%. I think the first video I recorded, I don't understand YouTube's algorithm though. It's interesting. So let's say the first video was about, let's say 16 minutes, and let's say the retention, well, total time watch was, I think, 0.9 hours. So that's, and I think four viewers, thereabout. I can actually check the facts, but I kind of want to keep the sort of authenticity of the whole thing going. So I don't want to really burden you with imaginary numbers, but let's go there. Because I kind of, it's a lesson to me. In actual fact, I always feel like the freaking bat at the ball or dance. I would design this freaking thing differently. What's wrong with 3 blocks? In the event, okay, so the first one was April 12th. Stats. 4 viewers, watch time 0.9 hours. So what's that? 55 minutes thereabout? I don't know. In event, the topic was probably, unless my handsome self was the attraction. I always say, if I weren't so humble, I would have not relied on my superior looks, but rather my superior brains for a living. But of course, my humility gets the better of me. And I can already hear my son saying, nice shirt, Dad. 3 days in a row. But truth be told, I only own one t-shirt that I still want to wear. Yeah, it's been a tough time, and I kind of suck at taking care of simple things, such as children and being there for them. You know, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, is because at least I document my attempted fatherhood, so that one day when I transpire, they will have something at least to look at. And well, who knows, maybe it just gets deleted or whatever the case may be, but yeah. But anyway, the topic of discussion, the 12th was a follow-up on prophetic dreams and my system. I believe it was episode 5 and 6. And like I say, it garnered some kind of interest. I'm not sure what the reason is, but yeah, I'm going to tell you another story now that was interesting to me. I mean, it is all interesting to me, but everything's interesting. I mean, if you find, even if you go into outer space, a single cubic millimeter of space contains an atom, something we don't understand. So I mean, there's no reason for any of us to be bored, because A, we're not in outer space, and B, we don't understand anything at all. I call it various degrees of misunderstanding of what is perceived as reality, which may not even be a reality, because it may be a simulation, etc., etc. But back on the topic of telepathy. And this morning I thought about this funny dream that I'd had. I've had many telepathic dreams. At least dreams that tell me what's happening. I don't know why I'm such an avid dreamer, or such a lucid dreamer, but possibly because I read this little book, Dreams and Omens, when I was, I don't know, possibly, let's say, I was still a teenager. But anyway, in event, written by James Ward, I believe, if I remember correctly, and the book was like a blue cover, and it was like 4 little half circles. And once I read a couple of his dream interpretations, I kind of like, okay, I get the language. The language kind of makes sense. It's a sentence. A dream is a sentence of emotions. And the emotions are like metaphors of things. Oh boy, we're gonna have fun. If you can tolerate this. We're already on what? I've already had my bottle of wine, so we're back on coffee and cigarettes. 5 minutes. Okay, so for me, initially a dream was a sentence written with emotions. And each image represents an emotion. So for me, dreams are visual. And each visual represents an emotion, and each emotion is a complex, let's call it a metaphor, that strings together meaning, and these meaning, the sequence of meaningful feelings render let's call it a satisfying comprehension of reality. Some dreams repeat because you don't get the message, you don't get the sentence. Some dreams are just like, sort of like, let's say, a half a second, just a flash of reality that may be a snapshot of the future, or perhaps a significant fear, or whatever the case may be. Dreams are interesting. But the way it's formatted is always important, as far as I understand, which is perhaps not a lot. But the dream I wanted to get to, following this now affirmation on prophetic dreams and telepathy and the belief in prayer and the belief in what I believe to be the divine, which can be misunderstood if you're a Jungian. Although I needn't go there, because I respect the work of Carl Gustav Jung, and he was a proper scientist. He absolutely respected the scientific approach, and I would kind of actually like to have a chat with him in person, maybe do a Joe Rogan style interview where I could make him smoke some pot and have a whiskey or whatever the case may be, and see if he drops some Freudian slips to get to the truth. But the truth of the matter is, he conducted himself as a scientist, and so he didn't elaborate on on what I believe to be his gut feelings on the collective unconscious. He merely mentioned that there is such an observation to be made, and that it has validity, etc. Okay, so all that rubbish aside, and a follow-up on telepathy. Okay, so this is, when was this? This was possibly about 7 years ago, thereabout. Both me and my younger brother were staying on the farm, and his girlfriend had brought a cat back from a public figure. And the cat's name was, I believe, to be something fucking stupid, something like Rocky or something like that, which is also unidentifiable. But anyway, this talent and his ex had split up, and it broke the home in a smallish city or town, and the cat needed a place to stay, and so the cat he was also a lonesome and sort of I should call it a hermit, although also a freaking classic psychopathic killer of note. And I never really liked the idea of attaching to animals. I've lost some buttes, and it's not in my nature to try and repeat injuries. So if things aren't working out well, I'd rather just try and avoid the injury. But after a while, this cat kind of realized that he was going to be left behind by the people who brought him here. And so he sort of gradually sort of like snuck up on me. You know, so he's not completely psychopathic. There's something communal about him. But it was only when I was asleep. And this one Sunday afternoon, I had an early, possibly selfish braai, and the cat, I took an early nap, let's say 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's midsummer or maybe late summer. And I dreamt that the cat was communicating with me. So I asked the cat, okay, well, champ, how are things in the hunting business? You know, not to be rude, you know, I don't really have much in common with cats. Or wanting to know how to eat a rat's brain or whatever the case may be. But, you know, it's my nature to be polite. And so the cat replied, you know what, you know, the rat business is difficult. Because there's this freaking annoying bushbuck. And I don't know if you guys know South African bushbuck, but it's reputed to be the second most aggressive buck. And I'll do another video on exactly how bad that is. But I mean, they look beautiful. They look like Bambi. They are stunningly beautiful. But don't let the beauty deceive you. They understand exactly how to survive in winter in the bush, in summer in the bush, when they can walk around, because there are farmers all around here with rifles. They understand exactly. They are smart. And in fact, there's another encounter that but that's not a dream. That was actual reality. Anyway, so the cat sort of paints this picture or discusses this way how I could shoot this buck and how I could do a spit braai and how wonderful the meat on its neck would taste. And then if this, you know, troublesome buck were to be eliminated, then the rat business could go and progress. And this dream kind of moved me, and I woke up and a freaking cat, this now what I would call a stranger's pet, is sleeping freaking right next to me. And I thought to myself, could that be telepathy? Is this cat actually communicating with me? Is it smart enough to do that? Does it, you know, is it accustomed to this concept of telepathy? This thing that I don't actually even understand myself at that point in time. And then what I would call a DILF. I conversed with what I call a DILF. Now, you know, in other words, a dog I'd like to fuck. She's passed away now, respectfully, so possibly a bad joke, but she was a sweetheart nonetheless. In any event, she reckons, no, animal communication is a real thing, and blah blah blah, and I should pay attention. Now, of course, the timelines are now screwed up because it's like a long time ago. But the conclusion, nonetheless, after having had a dream of that same cat, was some late morning after an abusive amount of red wine, and I dreamt that the cat had caught a mouse. It ran into the kitchen, and the mouse deemed itself to be on its final moments, and it said to me in the dream, "Okay, bye, I'm dead now." And in the dream I approached the mouse and I investigated, and I see the piercing marks in its abdomen. And at first I said, "No man, you're still talking, what are you talking about?" And then I do the investigation, and then I See the piercing marks in its abdomen, and I say, okay, yeah. All things considered, your size being what it is, I guess you're right. This is your time. And then I wake up with a significant hangover and, the normal, I don't know, fuzz that comes with a good night of sleep. And I'm curious, so I get out of bed and I walk over to the kitchen. And as I walk into the kitchen, that same cat, Rocky, rocks out the kitchen window, because I leave the windows open because I like fresh air in the house. In any event, it hops out the window, and I look in the zinc and there's a dead mouse. Exactly the dimensions of the mouse in the dream. I can't remember if I reinvestigated the injuries, but its head was aligned with the alignment of the actual mouse in the dream. And that to me was like without abusing foul words, that for me was like a WTF moment. I want to reserve foul words for foul moments. And it wasn't a foul moment, but it was most certainly, in terms of statistics, if you had, I mean, even if you fail at statistics, this is still freaky weird, because one rarely dreams of mice. And if you dream of mice, it's, it's sort of like a symbol towards poverty or risk, or, stuff like that. But dreaming of a cat catching a mouse and the mouse saying, okay, goodbye, I'm dead, and the cat jumping out the window when you wake up, and there's a dead mouse in the exact scenery of the dream that you had, on the exact same, it's minutes apart really, from waking up from the dream to seeing the actual image. That was, to me, I mean, I had been a believer of telepathy way before that, but that to me was, again, a repeat of what I deem to be pretty freaking real. But now the video is at 17 minutes, so I'm going to do this one, and then I'm going to do another one. Apologies. What shall I call this one? It's cool. Let's dedicate this one to Rocky. Rocky, the psychopathic killer cat.